Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
Hell yeah. How are you this week?
I'm doing pretty okay.
Pretty okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How about yourself?
I got my vaccine this week. I'm a one-pump chump, as I saw someone say on TikTok.
Wow.
Yeah, I got the Johnson & Johnson. And I'd appreciate it if everybody would, stop calling us the Slytherins of the vaccine world or telling us we're the worst ones. Like, bitch, we're one and done. Don't be jelly.
Because you took the shortcut?
Because I took the shortcut. I took the
shortcut to power.
Yeah, I have the power now, so. Anyway, 2 weeks from yesterday, we're going to go to Half Price Books for the first time in over a year, and I'm so fucking excited. I realize why I'm so excited, aside from not doing it in a long time. This is the first time I'll go to a bookstore with my chair, this chair, and I can see all the
you can go
shelves.
Yeah.
That is extremely exciting. Did you hear me? I got breathless. So I said, and I kept with it. This week we're going to read, I read Ramona and Her Father by Beverly Cleary, since she died a couple weeks ago. I'd totally forgotten about Ramona the Brave in there between the pest and her father. And turns out it's because I don't have it, which is a fucking shame. It's one of the best ones. So I will be looking for that at half price.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But anyways, Ramona and Her Father is great. Of course, anyway. It's published in 1975. Would you like to tell us about it?
Ramona and Her Father by Beverly Cleary. Trouble in the Quimby house. When her father loses his job, Ramona decides to help out. Maybe she could earn $1 million making a TV commercial or get her father to stop smoking to save money and his lungs. She is full of ideas. Some work, some don't. But when her father says he wouldn't trade her for $1 million, Ramona knows all is right in the world.
And that's the book.
That kind of jogs something in my memory, like I probably have read this before.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, with her trying to save money and trying to get her dad to stop smoking.
Okay, good. But do you remember much about the family at all?
No.
No? Okay. The Quimbys are, one of the most realistic families I've ever read, because they have, actual real financial issues. It's not overly dramatic, but it's very real.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was always very identifiable. Do you think you read this as a kid or to your kids?
No, it would have been as a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
That would have been when I was getting the Super Fudge.
Judy Blume?
That would have been when I was getting all the Judy Blume books. It would have been, those would have been right in the same section.
Right,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
As a series of books. And
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's why they're linked in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this book, we've got Ramona in 2nd grade and her older sister Beatrice in 7th. Her mother is works part-time in a doctor's office, but purely to pay off the extra room they had built on in the last book. And her father works for a small van and storage company. So U-Haul, I guess.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they have a yellow cat named Picky, which was a great name. So Ramona's sitting at a table, making her Christmas list whilst yeeping. Just saying yeep. And her mother's like, girl, what? And Ramona says, I'm making a joyful noise unto the Lord, like they say in Sunday school. Only they don't tell us what that joyful noise sounds like, so I made up my own. And hooray and wow just didn't sound right. So yeet. one of them mentions it's payday, which is super exciting. Because sometimes, like, her father will bring home treats, nothing big, but like some colored paper for Beezus or a paperback for Ramona. Or maybe they'll go to a movie, or maybe they'll go to Whopper Burger.
Huh.
Which, as a Texan, I definitely appreciated that Whataburger sound alike. Just the way she describes it, a soft, juicy hamburger spiced with relish, French fries crisp on the outside and mealy inside, a little paper cup of coleslaw at the Whopper Burger restaurant were Ramona's favorite payday treat. Eating close together in a booth made Ramona feel snug and cozy. She and Beezus never quarreled at the Whopper Burger. It's so nice. And I mean, I remember when going out to eat at a fast food restaurant was a very big treat.
Yeah.
Or, I remember being 7 and being excited that it was payday because I knew what that meant. I imagine there are kids who had no idea when their parents got paid, but
Yeah.
we sure as hell did.
See, when my parents were together, that's basically how we celebrated anything was let's go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I was living with a single mom, she got paid once a month.
Oh, right.
That was always nice because you knew you're going to have groceries that day. We didn't go out to eat ever.
Wow.
Yeah. That I can think of. We probably did once or twice on celebration days or something, but
yeah.
I don't remember pretty much all of high school. Once I started having my own jobs, then I would, I myself would buy fast food. But up until that point, no, there was no even payday going out to eat.
So her dad gets home, and he has a bag of Gummy Bears, the latest fad of food at school for the girls. And it tells them to go off and split them up. They do this very seriously. Like one red one for you, one red one for me. So they do that until they realize their parents have stopped talking. And then they start whispering, and the girls get very worried. And Ramona goes, she tried to think what she might have done to make her parents whisper that way, but she had stayed out of trouble lately. She could not think of a single thing that could be wrong. This frightened her even more. And I was like, yes, okay, that's another thing with Ramona is her anxiety that I identified with so much. I'll get into it more later. But yeah, it's like as soon as you hear your parents or something wrong, it's like, oh shit, it's me. At least that was me. Did you always think it was you?
No, because it was very rarely me. One of my brothers?
Well, me neither. I was a good kid, but that's because I was so anxious about being a good kid.
But that didn't mean that it wouldn't be taken out on me. Even if it wasn't me. So, yeah, I would get anxious.
Okay.
But usually it was not quiet whispering. It was loud arguing.
Right. Yeah.
Or yelling or...
Yeah. Well, it turns out her father's lost his job.
That's when I would grab a book and hide.
Yeah, same. Right. And so the girls are even more worried. And, Ramona's been working on her Christmas list. She's like, what about Christmas? And Mrs. Quimby says, right now Christmas is the least of our worries. Taxes are due in November, and we have to buy groceries and make car payments and a lot of other things. Beezus is like, don't we have any money in the bank? Not much, but your father was given 2 weeks' pay. So, do you ever feel like you knew too much about your family's finances?
Yeah, at times, especially after my parents' divorce. My mom had a very hard time because she had basically quit 3 jobs in a row to follow my dad.
Right.
To his jobs, and then when we moved back to East Texas, and that's when they split up, and she had no
And how old were you?
I was late 10, almost 11. Okay. And So as time went on, they actually went to court to have um, what was going to be child support.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad had his secretary at work lie about how much money he made. And
Wow.
so he ended up having to pay $175 a month to support me and my middle brother. My
Mm-hmm.
oldest brother was 16.
Mm.
He decided he was going to stay in Odessa and work.
Oh, right.
Um, and so it was me and my middle brother. And $175 a month is what we were living on, food and everything. And the
Yes.
courts said that my dad had to pay the credit card bills and
Mm.
the mortgage on the house. Now, what he did was not pay those.
Sure.
And what happened was the house was foreclosed on.
Uh-huh.
And the credit cards basically for the next 6 or 7 years of my life, oh, I guess longer than that. Because, yeah, it was about so until I actually moved out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, every phone call that I received was a possibility of somebody yelling
Yes.
at a little kid and harassing for me to tell my mom to pay them money.
Yep. I had that too.
Yeah.
And that may be why we both have such major phone anxiety.
Yeah, quite a bit. We got our first answering machine when I was probably a junior in high school.
Oh my God.
And so that was when we could actually start screening our calls.
Yeah.
And so that was a positive.
Yeah. Thank God.
We actually there was a story where, because mom by that time had started working at the prison and had
Mm-hmm.
been moving herself up.
Right.
And a former prisoner had gotten our phone number and left a message for me saying that he was going to do things to your mom. And
Oh my God.
yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah, that was a whole thing.
Jesus.
I mean, scared the crud out of me. And
Yeah.
mom was like, "Oh no, it's not a big deal. I see ex-prisoners at Walmart. I saw one not too long ago. He probably figured out and asked somebody about me or something." And yeah, but we called the
Super
police and
chill,
told
no
them,
problem.
and we had it on a recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing else ever came from that, thankfully.
Yeah.
Uh,
Otherwise, it was just a good screener.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what were we talking about?
I was talking about if you thought you knew too much about your family.
Oh, yeah. So mom
Yeah.
would talk about the finances and about how she was actually trying to pay the creditors. She was
Mhm.
taking little bits of her money each month, and she did until probably I was 19 years old. So it took her
Mhm.
like 8 years to pay off credit cards,
But she did.
and the house that they had bought was a big 2-story house,
Right, the big white one.
the big white one,
Yeah.
and they had 7 years left to pay on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but she obviously didn't have a job, so she couldn't pay the mortgage, and
Yeah.
dad refused to pay the mortgage. So yeah, fun
Yeah.
times.
Super stressful for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and I obviously got to know that.
Yeah.
One time I was sitting in the car with my dad on visitation day, and he had gone in somewhere, and I was just bored and looking for something to read, basically, or something, just looking for a distraction, and opened his glove box, and his checkbook was there, and I started looking in his checkbook, not looking. I didn't know what his balance was.
Yeah,
I
you just
I
wanted
didn't even know how to read a checkbook at
Yeah.
the time. And was just kind of looking at it, was kind of fascinated with checks and entries and no real thing, no big thing. My dad came out and saw me looking
Oh
at
my
his
God.
checkbook, and he started yelling at me
Yeah.
and said, "Did your mom put you up to that?
Oh my
Did your
God.
mom tell you to do that?"
Yeah.
Oh man, my fucking parents.
Your fucking parents.
I will, for everybody out there, my dad is much better now.
Yes, we love his dad.
Yeah, he He was a kind of a piece of a shit person, and got back with the love of his life, really, who's he's still married with now. And she pretty much straightened him out
She did
and
good.
made him a much better person. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, fun times.
Yeah. So when I was about 10, my family declared bankruptcy. And of course,
I think that's how my dad got
Yeah.
out of paying this stuff,
Yeah.
is he declared bankruptcy.
But yeah, they totally told me that, and that's a big scary word. And I don't think it was explained much more than that. So yeah, I've always been freaked out about.
Yeah.
And I mean, they talk about it, and how much, things cost, and I don't know. That's a lot of pressure on a anxious kid.
Yeah.
I think it adds to the anxiety. But anyway, so their mother ends up getting a full-time job at another doctor's office, while their father is at home doing chores or just sitting around and smoking and waiting by the telephone for a job. Ramona thought it was going to be super dope to have him to herself, to herself for a while every day. But she worries that he's too worried to love her. Yeah, Ramona. They see a Whopper Burger commercial with a boy singing, and her father says, "Boy, I bet that kid gets paid $1 million." Ramona's like, "Well, I could do that and earn $1 million." And so she starts watching all the kids in commercials very closely, including one where there was a boy who asked at the end of a wiener commercial, "Dad, how do you tell a boy hot dog from a girl hot dog?" I would also like to know the answer to this, but they don't say.
There are no girl hot dogs. There are girl buns.
Oh. That was in a commercial. Wow. Okay, great. Uh-oh, you're tickled now. Ramona grew particularly fond of the curly little girl saying to her mother at the zoo, "Look, Mommy, the elephant's legs are wrinkled just like your pantyhose." Ah. So she starts practicing saying all these lines, and she starts to feel like a camera is always on her, and she feels dainty, curly haired, and adorable. Till one day she skips into class, and her teacher's hose are wrinkly. So, of course, she says the line that she looks like elephant's legs, and her teacher's like, okay, just stop skipping. But her friend Howie tells her, that was pretty rude. And all of a sudden, she doesn't feel cute anymore. But her father's there that day for an after school conference with her teacher. She's not in trouble, just a regular conference. And so she goes outside to wait for him and finds a big bunch of burrs and, discovers she can stick them together. And so she makes a crown. And all of a sudden she's feeling very cute commercial girl again. He comes out and she's like, "Well, what'd she say about me?" And she said she's impatient, a good reader, a careless speller, an unusually good artist, the very best printer in the class, and also inclined to show off and sometimes forgets her manners. And Ramona declares that she's making that up, but then she remembers the elephant comment from that very day and shuts up. So her dad goes to take the crown off, but yeah, it's all tangled in her hair. Beezus laughs, and they try water, and it doesn't work, and they decide scissors are the only way. Ramona freaks out, but her dad does as little damage as possible. They see that commercial kid from Whopper Burger, and Ramona says she could be like him. And her father's like, "Nah, even for $1 million, I wouldn't trade him for you." Ah. Then everyone's grouchy one night. Hold on.
As anxious parents tend to be.
Yeah. And so they're at dinner, everybody grouchy, even Picky, who was living up to his name because he doesn't like the cheap cat food that he's now getting called puss pudding. I mean, I don't blame him either.
You sure that's not puss pudding?
No, it says puss. Puss. Because he's a pussy cat. Ramona makes her father smile by saying Tommy toes instead of tomatoes. And so she tries it 2 more times and he says, Ramona, my grandmother used to have a saying, first time is funny, second time is silly, third time is a spanking. Like, god damn. All right. But huzzah, surprise, guess what? Howie's grandmother brought an extra huge pumpkin from the country when she got theirs. So they get to carve it and they have like a great ass night. Everything's better. Until Ramona hears a thumping from the kitchen that wakes her up later. And she screams, waking everybody else up. And so her father goes into the kitchen and he starts laughing. Picky has eaten half the face off of the jack-o'-lantern. And Beezus is pissed, saying, see, I told you he was starving because he doesn't like that food. And why can father afford to still buy cigarettes? And they're bad for you and the air. And obviously, their father gets pretty angry. But Beezus doesn't care. And Ramona's like kind of impressed by her. But then she starts worrying about her father's health because she said, things about his lungs turning black and all that. So she starts crying, and her parents think it's, just about the jack-o'-lantern. They're like, we'll get another pumpkin, no biggie. But she was crying about important things, like her father being cross so much now, that he wasn't working, and his lungs turning black, and Beezus being so disagreeable, when before she had always been so polite to grown-ups, and anxious to do the right thing. Didn't grown-ups think children worried about anything but jack-o'-lanterns? Didn't they know children worried about grown-ups? It's like, damn. See, that's what makes Ramona and Beverly Cleary so special, I think. It's like I was an anxious mess as a kid. I mean, I still am. But, yeah, I still am. So it was comforting to see it, represented like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember reading any of that from Ramona?
Not particularly.
Okay.
I do remember the sister's name.
Beezus?
Yeah.
But so Ramona has a mission now. She makes a couple of no smoking signs and puts them up, but they don't do any good. Then Beezus starts to help, and they make a ton of them and hang them up all over. Still no good. So they make a ton of tiny little no smoking signs on scraps of paper. And on some, Ramona drew stick figures of people stretched out flat and dead, and on one, a cat on his back with his feet in the air. And so they hide him in places like where he'll find them, like his bathroom robe pocket and stuff like that. But he's just ignoring them at this point. So they take the cigarettes out of the pack and replace them with the rolled up signs. And that Ramona gets in trouble for.
Did your parents smoke?
Yes.
My dad smoked, but I don't remember ever seeing him smoke. So I think either he quit before I was born or when I was very young, young enough for me not to remember. He got my mom smoking.
Yeah.
And she smoked for my childhood. And man, it made me so sick. Riding in a car with the smell.
Yeah.
I mean, any time I was around it, I just felt sick. And I can remember her saying, "You better never smoke as much as you complain about me smoking."
Not for your health. Just
she quit after her third heart attack. Her doctor said,
damn.
"You have to change your life or you're going to die." And then that's when she finally quit.
Wow.
But that one change alone made her so much healthier.
Yeah.
And, she's had AFib in her later life, but she didn't have another heart attack after that.
Yeah.
She would have episodes. She actually carried nitroglycerin around with her in little pill form to take on occasion. But
yeah, I see people talking about, like, do you remember how ubiquitous smoking was that we would like make ashtrays for our parents in art class and
I would buy lighters
uh-huh.
and make ashtrays in school.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
For gifts.
Yeah. What was that about? We all did that.
Yeah.
Like, jeez. And like, I'll see somebody talk about that on a Twitter thread or something, and people will say, oh yeah, my parents would, give me money and I'd go down to the gas station and get some for them.
Yeah.
Like, what? I never did that, but damn.
Yeah, it was probably the 80s when they started the big campaigns of carding people.
Yeah, so that would be why I never.
Yeah, up until then, it was like you weren't supposed to sell it to people under 18, but there was all you had to do was say you were 18. There was no check for it or anything.
Yeah. And there were vending machines.
My dad had a vending machine in his gas station.
Oh, sure. Okay, that makes
sense.
For
cigarettes, yeah.
Yeah. Dope.
Yeah, had one for chips and candy, one for Cokes, and one for cigarettes.
The necessities of life.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, enough is enough when she replaces the cigarettes. And she gets in big trouble for that. So one rainy day, they live in Portland, Oregon, by the way, so it's raining a lot. She comes home.
I vaguely remember that.
And the door's locked. Her dad's not there. And her anxiety goes into overdrive. Maybe her father was angry with her. Maybe he had gone away because she tried to make him stop smoking. She thought she was saving his life, and maybe she was being mean to him. Her mother said she must not annoy her father because he was worried about being out of work. Maybe she had made him so angry he did not love her anymore. Maybe he had gone away because he did not... What? Oh, just because he didn't love her anymore. She thought of all the scary things she had seen on television. Houses that had fallen down in earthquakes. People shooting people. Big hairy men on motorcycles. And knew she needed to keep her father safe. And it's like, I still worry like that. I would have added him being inside and dead. But I mean, yeah, still being like that. I was thinking last weekend, do you remember I texted you saying, are you okay? When you'd gone out to get breakfast.
Yeah.
And you were just like, long lines. Plus you were getting me a Starbucks that I hadn't asked for.
Everywhere I went had long lines. It was a long line just going down 380 because they had one of the lanes shut down. Then you get to CVS and there was a line there. Was that one?
No, you just went to Whataburger and Starbucks.
Okay.
Which are both right there.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. How Whataburger does theirs, they have the two lines.
Yeah.
And you wanted Whataburger, so I went to Whataburger.
Oh, that honey chicken
and
biscuit.
I was probably around the 17th car in the two lines. Yeah. So that obviously took probably the majority of the time. And then I got into the Starbucks line, and there was an additional wait because there was a trash truck that was coming to get their dumpster and blocking the line. So, yeah, not only did we have the line to deal with there, but we also had that. Yeah. Anyway, it took a long time.
But I did not know this.
Yeah.
And I just thought you were going to Whataburger,
right.
which is like,
which would have been
3/4 of a mile away.
Yeah, which would have been long enough to already. I was just pulling into Starbucks when I got that. Yeah. So that way itself was enough.
But yeah, I was sitting there starting to worry, and I eventually just had to text you. And there had been sirens, but I mean, we live close to a hospital and a fire station. But those put together with you being gone a very long time that I thought would be much shorter. Yep, my anxiety started.
Yeah.
I do take pills for it, by the way, but yeah. I catastrophize, I guess. Yeah. But he ends up showing up, and there were long lines at the unemployment office where he was picking up his check. So, he pulls out his cigarettes, but then he sets them down and asks Ramona what she wants to do. So they start drawing all of Oregon on a huge long piece of paper. She apologizes for the cigarette thing, and he says he'll try to stop. Huzzah! Beezus has her creative writing project come up that she does not want to do. And she has to interview an older person, and Ramona suggests Mrs. Swink down the street, which Beezus doesn't love because she's like, she always wears polyester suits. Okay, Beezus. But she does it anyway, and Ramona tags along, of course. It's a real slow start, but then she tells them about the tin can stilts they made when she was younger. And, of course, Ramona is obsessed with this idea and tells Howie about it right away. Did you ever make any of those?
What was it?
Tin can stilts.
Stilts.
Yeah, you know where you have like coffee cans and you put like rope through it.
Yeah, I probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems familiar. Like you put like a rope or something.
Yeah. Well, Howie has 2 pairs ready by the next afternoon. And so they clang loudly around the neighborhood for the next 2 days, scream singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall, just to be louder. Which, by the way, was a tiny bit scandalous, apparently. Little kids singing about beer.
Wow.
But anyways, definitely never going to mention this to our neighbor. Who's a bit Ramona-like herself.
Yeah.
If she's, she could be figure out a way to be louder outside. She's the loudest child ever.
Yeah, she likes for everybody to hear what she's saying, that's for sure. And she'll get in arguments with the people across the street, and she'll yell it.
Yeah. And we all know. We all know it. Yeah, she's 9, and she's very, very Ramona. And, like, Ramona will go up to talk to her neighbor. Man, she does that same thing. She'll talk to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm working on the cars, she always comes up and tries to get me to conversate with her. But I just kind of say, yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, she's great, though. But don't ever tell her about how to make more noise in the neighborhood, please.
Yeah.
All right, praise God, it's Sunday school time. And it's time to discuss the Christmas pageant. Oh, do Baptists do the Christmas pageant thing?
I don't know what you mean by pageant, but there would be, we would have displays and they would have, like people dress as the 3 wise men and stuff. That stuff would happen occasionally.
Stuff would happen.
Yeah.
Would you act it out? That's what it is. Everybody dressing up in the different parts and going through the story of Christmas Eve. And
I vaguely remember that happening when at the larger Baptist church we went to in East Texas, not the Baptidome one. I vaguely remember that happening, but I don't remember it being a yearly ritual.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They would have live nativities.
Yeah.
During specific times. That was annual, and then they would have the real nativities that they put out for everybody. But for like pageants, they would have basically the choir doing Christmas songs.
Okay.
But only ones about Christianity.
Well, obviously. Yeah. Methodists are very into Christmas pageants, and that was
Yeah.
definitely an annual thing. And yeah, it was just like in here, like certain ages would be different things.
Mhm.
Like, for here, well, Beezus gets to be Mary, and it's like, holy shit.
Mm.
Yeah, because it was all kids.
And how old was she? How old was Beezus?
7th grade.
So probably pretty close to what Mary's age was.
Oh yeah. Probably. Yeah. So the kindergarten through 2nd graders are always angels that sing the songs. And Ramona knows that nobody cares about the 2nd grade angels because they're not cute like the kindergartners anymore.
Mm.
So she's like, eh. But she realizes, hey, the shepherds don't have anyone to shepherd. So she volunteers to be a lamb. And the teacher's like, it's a great idea. But we don't have any sheep costumes.
Right.
She's like, so sorry. But Ramona volunteers her mother to make one. And so now the teacher's stuck, has to give in. And then suddenly everybody else wants to be a lamb.
Yeah, a whole bunch of lambs.
Uh-huh. But she's like,
I mean, that's a way to include people that want to be in it without, having to teach them how to act or anything
well, sing.
too much.
Yeah. There's not really a ton of acting. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
There's usually like a narrator. And they
Mm-hmm.
act it out. Everybody sings. But anyway, she's like, the first few people who volunteered can be lambs, and that ends up being Howie and Davy. When she tells her parents this, they're pretty pissed that she volunteered her mom like this, because she does not have the time. And her father can't sew. Of course. But her mother...
Why would a man be able to sew?
I mean, that's ridiculous. But her mother says she'll see what she can do with this old white robe that they have. She'll bleach it, and then we'll see. And later on, Ramona eavesdrops on her parents, and she hears her father calling her a spoiled brat, and her mother shouldn't have, given in to her. But her mother says she understands that sort of thing's a big deal. And, it's Christmas, and this one's going to be suckier compared to other Christmases.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But she truly does not have time. And so she really doesn't get much done. And Beezus is going around being an overly pious little twat, thinking she's truly the Virgin Mary. And so she's acting, perfect and saint-like. But good news, her dad got a job. He'll be working at a supermarket. Huzzah. And they kind of skip over that a bit. But
all right.
Yeah. So on the way to the pageant, her parents are happy. And Beezus is sitting there smiling serenely. But Ramona's all grumpy and feeling ridiculous because all her mother had time to do was make a headdress with the ears and a tail, and then put her in a pair of white pajamas with faded pink rabbits on them. She's like,
Okay.
I'm not doing it. And they're like, you're not going to ruin our night. Bye. Which is actually a pretty great way to deal with that. Is can't do anymore. Sorry. Was your mom a costume maker?
No,
like that?
I mean she could sew. She learned fairly early, but by the time I was at an age where I wanted to do anything like that, she was working full time, and then through junior high, she was going to school and working full time.
Oh yeah, so no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was a Mrs. Quimby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And had absolutely no energy left over when she was home. So.
Yeah.
The good thing about that is, there were a lot of people I went to school with who had parents who did have time, and would, when it came to school projects and things like that, it ended up being the parents doing it. And, if I had to do something, I had to do it. So dioramas or anything like that was was me and myself alone. And, that helped growth.
Yeah.
As hard as it was at the time
Yeah.
doing things by myself.
Yeah.
It helped foster some creativity and eventually know-how.
Strengthened your character.
Sure. Yep.
So when Ramona gets down where all the other kids are, she goes and hides behind a Christmas tree. And Howie looks amazing because his grandmother will make him anything.
Yeah.
And Davy looks okay. And Ramona thinks her ears are just as good as theirs. So now she kind of wants to be out with them, but she said, like maybe the faded rabbits didn't show as much as she thought. She sat hunched and miserable. She had told her father she would not be a sheep. She wouldn't back down now. Why didn't some grown-up come along and make her join the other sheep? But no grown-up came. And it's like, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, please somebody come make me do this. Yeah. So the girls playing the three wise people, because all the boys backed out, were getting ready. And, okay, so it's 1975. One of the girls began to dab tan cream from a little jar in her face and smear it around to look like a Middle Eastern man, I suppose. Yeah. Yikes. Anyway, they see Ramona and they think she looks really cute. And Ramona's like, maybe I need makeup too. So they give her a cute little nose with mascara. And so now she feels dope as hell and runs out to join the others. And they don't recognize her at first. And then they're like, oh, that's awesome. And go get noses of their own. And it's showtime. So Ramona finds herself like super proud of Beezus. And she looks out to see her parents, to see them all proud too. But then she starts freaking out because anxiety.
Right.
And she's worried, her parents may not recognize her. How will they ever find her? They don't even think she's going to be up there. But then her father looks right at her and winks. In church.
Huh.
She's like, a little bit scandalized. But she realizes that, she is very, very, very happy right now. And she can't help but let out a big old bah. So one of the shepherds nudges her and tells her to be quiet. But Ramona don't give a shit, and she starts twerking her little tail off to show how happy she is. The end.
The end.
The end. I love the Quimbys so much. Yeah, I'll probably read more. It made me real happy reading this again.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Newberry Honor. I can't read the rest of that.
Yeah. R.I.P. Beverly Cleary. Thank you for seeing us. So what you reading?
So I finished Incarceron by Catherine Fisher. Basically about this guy who is in this prison type world. Basically it's a closed off world, and there aren't people in cells. They're just they can't go outside. They don't see any stars. And he's had to get in with this group of people that are not very good people. They basically make their living off of robbing other people who live in this world, this closed world, and have made communities and things like that. And so they'll go out and stop caravans and stuff like that. So it's a big world, but still a prison. And anyway, then this girl who's about to be forced to marry the prince of this kingdom, and he's not a very good person.
Sure.
And so she and her tutor keep trying to find ways of getting out of it. And then her father is the warden of the prison.
Of course.
And nobody actually knows where the prison is.
No.
But anyway, the story revolves around that. I'll probably read the second one. I gave it 4 stars. I was pretty close to going 3, so it was around the 3.5 range. Good enough. I'll probably read this second book as well. And then still reading March Upcountry. That's the one I'm reading at night before I go to bed, so it's going to be slow.
Yeah.
Recurring every week for a little while.
Yeah.
But good enough that I haven't put it down. It, but nothing outstanding about it yet.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening to Bernard Cornwell's Sword of Kings.
Yes.
So I was very surprised when, going back every once in a while when I can't find something to read, I'll go back and look at some of my favorite authors that maybe I don't know when their stuff has come out. And apparently this book had been out when I was reading some of his other ones, but it wasn't at the library.
Oh.
So it's now at the library. And then it's the 13th book in this series.
That's so wild.
And I saw that he made a 14th that came out in October of last year.
Oh, I did.
And it's the final one of this series.
Uh-oh.
So, it's bittersweet.
I was going to say, do you think you'll be emotional when you get to the end of it?
Yeah, quite possibly. This is one of my favorite series. I'd say probably pretty close to, what's the one I watched the show on to? Sci-fi with the spaceships and...
Expanse?
So it's pretty close to the Expanse series.
Wow.
This one and Expanse are probably my favorite series. And Cornwell's my favorite author. He's he has kind of a style, and it's a lot like he just had one that came out not too long ago. They're the thick books.
Ken Follett?
Yeah. What's his first name?
Ken.
So his style is a lot like Ken Follett, and except a little grittier. And he does some different time period. But anyway, I love this. I love Bernard Cornwell's work in Sword of Kings, and
Yeah, you were so productive yesterday listening to it.
I'm so sad because he's in his 80s now. So, and I know he's not writing any more of this series, but I don't know how many actual books of any series he's still going to be able to write. But anyway, everybody has to deal with that if they live long enough that their favorite author is going to, he's not going to be with this forever.
Yeah, his body will come to an end.
Yep.
So I'm back on my World War II historical fiction bullshit. This week I've been reading The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, which is a companion book because it's the same style as the excellent The Alice Network and The Huntress, which if you haven't read in historical fiction, oh my God, they're amazing. So this one also features 3 women working for the good guys in World War II. This time at the English countryside manor of Bletchley Park, doing very hush-hush things, helping to break the Axis code with the government code and cipher school. Real place. Alan Turing was there. The Imitation Game was set there. 80% of the workers were women, though. So
computers.
Yeah. They were fitting rods into things, and it's really interesting.
That's when they had all the cards that would kind of line. They tried to line up.
Yeah.
Would see random patterns.
Yes.
And then that would
one of the girls is really, really good at crossword puzzles. And so she gets brought in, and her boss, who's a real guy, was like, don't look at it too hard. Just look for patterns. Don't focus on what it's actually saying. So it's great. And she puts in a lot of real stuff that happened. Churchill shows up, and that really happened. And then when I was looking into the real stuff that happened, Kate Middleton's paternal grandmother and her twin worked there. And so the Glassboro twins had been mentioned a few times, just kind of in passing. but that's who it was in reference to. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But what's most interesting, especially this week, is that one of the girls is dating Prince Philip during the war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was really interesting and weird when he died this week, as I'm reading, like the fictional account of him.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't find too much of what, like, his relationships before he and Elizabeth officially started dating and stuff. Although little cousin Lilibet did have a crush on him at this point, but because she was like 13. But the character in the book who's dating him was like, oh, that's cute. But then throughout the war, she grows up and it starts getting serious. And yeah, so anyways, it's interesting. But, like other Kate Quinn books and a lot of other historical fiction, I guess, there's a bit of a back and forth timeline. So you know that they were like really, really good friends until something terrible happens, but you don't know what it is, obviously, at first. So yeah, I love it. Kate Quinn's amazing. I'm almost done with it. It says I'm about 80%, maybe 85, but I think I'm actually almost done with the story because she, puts in a lot of, what she referenced everything from and talking about what really happened and yeah, I'm loving it. Good. But I'm almost done. And I'm sad.
Yeah. The conundrum of being a book lover.
I know. Yeah, that's all I got.
You? All
right. So next book, shit kind of starts to go off the wall in the Babysitters Club. I'm gonna read 17, Marianne's Bad Luck Mystery. Dun, dun. Anyway, hey, please, share us with your friends. Rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and all those other podcast places. Find us on the social medias at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, except for Twitter, where we're Card Catalog Pod. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Just Digress, and email us at fightingOverTheCardCatalog@gmail.com. I'm rereading the books of your childhood.
So we don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.